Welcome back to KTN Life and Style. Today is Thursday, inspirational, motivational. I'm still recovering from this, and you're very lucky. Everything is working in and everything looks in shape. You are very, very, very lucky. Well, time for books and blogs. All the book lovers out there, we did not leave you out. We've got Catherine, who will be taking us through that. How are you, Catherine?
Great, how are you?
I am fantastic.
You actually look it.
Oh, thank you.
How come you don't have a book there? Do you read?
I read. What do you mean?
Okay. What genres are your favorite?
Fiction.
Okay.
Motivation.
Like you don't like reality, it has to be fiction.
Biographies.
Oh, okay.
Once in a while.
We'll touch base later.
All right.
Welcome to Books and Blogs. I'm Catherine, and this morning we are joined by David Waweru, very good friend of mine. It was a bit of a reunion this morning after not having seen you for how many years?
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show. Yeah. David is the current chairman of the Kenya Publishers Association. He's also an author. He's also a publisher. He's also a performance coach. He is also a father. You're very many things, David. But we are so glad to have you on this premiere edition of Books and Blogs.
Thank you, Catherine.
So let's first start with what you have been up to.
Lately, you know, I have always held this fascination about writing fiction. And it's simply because I grew up reading fiction. You wouldn't believe it that I read Jeffrey Archer when I was in Standard 7, and that's a while back.
Wow.
And the first of him that I read was Shall We Tell the President? And I read serious authors at a very early stage, like Robert Ludlum. Today, when I read Robert, I still wonder, how did I figure out these really complicated plots? But I never thought that I could write as well as these folks, although I harbored the ambition that someday I will write fiction.
Yeah.
And so about a month ago, I had this adventurous trip to Uganda, and we took 90 minutes on speedboat to go to Bulago Island. And it's a very small island, really exotic island. And we went there, just a few writers who wanted to start an audacious journey they had always dreamt of and hadn't fulfilled.
Okay.
And so I went to this writers' retreat organized by Success Park, real quality. So enjoying the tropical weather of Africa, watching the beautiful sunrises and the sunsets, and in between doing quite a bit of writing. And so I started, putting together my ideas for a fiction book, which hopefully will be out in a few years. Yeah.
So what happens exactly at a writer's retreat? I've never actually heard of one.
Oh, this is a unique experience, really, really unique. Now, Jackie Batanda, the organizer of this event, is an award-winning journalist, and she's written for top U.S. Newspapers, right from Uganda. And she's also written poems and short stories that have won continental awards. And, she dreamt that she would have more Africans write their stories and color the rest of the world with fascinating stories. And so she organizes very small, like boutique-like events where you are just a small group of 5 to 10 people. Yeah. And so there's a lot of engagement, a lot of exchange of ideas, a lot of writing. And then in the evening, you do self-critiquing, over dinner, over the fire, next to Lake Victoria and feeling the breeze. Yeah. So really, really fascinating.
Really
and a great opportunity.
And you leave there feeling very refreshed, more knowledgeable, I think.
Yeah, and hopefully with a story.
And hopefully with a story which took you there in the first place.
Absolutely.
Now, David, there's this quote or phrase that has been said many years ago that if you want to hide something from an African, put that in a book. Is that still true?
Well, there is a sense in which it could be said to be true. And because it may describe a very big number of people who are not actively engaged in the habit of reading as a part of their life. And if you look, for example, at the Kenyan context, you find that most people read because they must read a textbook to help them pass an exam. And after that exam, then you find that very many people tend to brag that they can't remember the last time they read. Now, so there is a sense in which that could describe a significant part of our population. However, it will not pass on another, maybe smaller but growing band of people who find reading part of the best leisure that they can have, because when you read books, it takes you to places you may never ever get physically, but it's able to, you are able to conjecture that mentally, because a book helps you to do that.
Absolutely.
Books, people who won't like engaging with ideas, because when you read books, you will find, like, if it's the biographies and if it's a philosophical book, if it's fiction, it basically helps you interact with many more ideas. So there is a band of Kenyans who are reading, and they are passionate readers. And for them, you wouldn't hide anything in a book and they don't find it, because they read from cover to cover.
Yes, absolutely. And you said to me, you were sharing your very fascinating story on how you instilled a reading culture in your children. And I would like you to share it, because it's incredibly inspiring. and I believe most people will listen to that and maybe want to adopt it.
Oh. As I was raising my kids up, there are certain things that we considered like sacred doing together, like over the weekends. And one of them was, washing the car. And probably doing the garden. And what I would do over time is we would have fun doing it, but then to inculcate the culture of working and earning their way through, work. I would pay them, for minimal fees for their contribution. But then I thought, why not pay for every book read? All right? But then for me to have evidence that they actually read the book, they would actually do a summary, a book summary, and the book summary will be like between one good paragraph to about 3 paragraphs. It shows me, they will have the big idea, the main characters, what the main issue was, and what the conflict was, and how it was resolved. And so for I paid for every book summary that was done. And then from the monies that they, earned, they saved it. So they started learning how to make their own savings, and then how to use their savings, responsibly. And I think there are some things that I remember that are really nostalgic. Number one is that I ended up running into debt because I was getting more book summaries than I could churn out the payments. That's number one. But number two is probably remembering my daughter, who is the second, seeing a picture of a dog she liked as we walked into a supermarket. And I said, I just can't afford to buy a dog, costing that much. And she said, I've saved enough.
Wow.
And I'm gonna, and most of those savings actually came from the book summaries.
Right.
And today, it's great pride for me to walk with them into either a bookshop or a mall, and I find they have gone to the book section, and they had carried money to buy a book. And I think when you engage young people with reading, there are very many things we save ourselves from along the way.
Absolutely.
Because reading develops a culture of deep thinking and reflection and interaction with very different ideas, and it develops responsibility.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Yes. Wow. Amazing. And as chairman of the Kenya Publishers Association, and seeing how, with your background in how you raised your children to just be this bookworms, and now they do that by themselves. And now you're running this organization at national level. How then do you translate that home experience to national level by instilling a reading culture in Kenya?
First of all, thank you very much for that question. As chairman of the Publishers Association, it basically means I must be leading a publishing firm. And WordAlive Publishers is one of the very few publishing houses in Kenya who concentrate on what you call trade publishing, which is general publishing for general interest. And so we will publish biographies, we'll publish fiction, we'll publish personal development books and general interest books, lifestyle books. And so for me, it's basically a huge ambition to help as many people develop that culture of reading and make it a lifestyle.
Yes.
Because it makes a world of a difference. And I've seen that, again, that culture was passed to me by my aunties. And now I've passed it to my kids. And hopefully we are helping develop that culture with our publishing firm.
Yes.
With the Kenya Publishers Association, now it goes to the national level, in fact, the regional level. And what we do on an annual basis is to organize book fiestas, book events. Like in a couple of weeks, we will have the Nairobi International Book Fair, which will be held at the Sarit Center. And it's an event to bring publishers and artists and illustrators and editors and authors and book lovers and book readers and those who are curious about books to get together and sample books and talk about books and for readers to meet their favorite authors. And just that, I've seen kids' eyes brighten up when they get to meet the author they've been reading in class. And we do that at every year, the International Book Fair. We do a regional book fair. In June, we just came from Machakos.
Wow.
And we had taken the gospel of reading in Machakos. And the other thing we are doing is that we are developing, outreach programs, to areas, communities that don't have a library, that don't have access to books. Maybe there's no bookshop serving them around there. And we just want to go right down there and have reading tents and have, we are working on a mobile, reading library and hope that we can help communities establish libraries, to bring books closer to the people. So. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. You just released this book this year, Champion.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Okay. First of all, it's inspired by what I consider still one of a great moment in my life. In my teenage years, my brother and I dreamt of, we were inspired by Sugar Ray Leonard and Muhammad Ali. And Sugar Ray Leonard because he was young, and good looking, and he had 5 belts under him as champion for a period of like 2-3 years, which had not been achieved. The greatest Muhammad Ali was heavyweight champion, but Sugar Ray Leonard has had 5 of them under him for a period of 3 years, and he was a real gadfly on the ring. No, but the beauty about him is that his story resonated a lot with our story. They struggled at home, and he saw his parents get unwell, and the bills rose, and they just didn't know how to finance that. And he heard about the local boxing gym, and he went there, and he said, I want to fight, and my biggest inspiration is so that my parents don't have to suffer and there's no one to take care of them. And he developed a dream of becoming, a professional boxer. And he, as a Golden Gloves amateur boxing champion for a couple of years, he did very well. But then he went ahead to become one of the greatest, boxers that we know. So he inspired us a great deal. And we said, the gym around here doesn't seem, it's quite inactive in boxing, but why can't we start our own boxing club? So when I was only 14, when I was only 14, my brother 16, we started a boxing club, and to be able to finance it and equip it, the gym, at the social club, we had to work over the weekends and during the holidays, and we earned a bit of money and we equipped the gym. We hired a coach that we were paying regularly. and we entered into the championships. And on our very first championship, we actually won from our first championship. During that time, Kenya was, again, tops in boxing in the 80s. And we basically had greats like Steve Muchoki and all that, who inspired us a great deal. And as a result of that, I recognized later on in life, one, as a parent, as a business, as an entrepreneur, offering some leadership roles, I realized that we applied leadership principles and we didn't know what we were doing. Because one, we desired something. And we recognized that if we want something so badly, we've got to go out there and get it. And if you have to go out there and get it, you have to find means of making it a reality. Which is what we did. And so that's what Champion is all about. It's basically helping people achieve their highest dreams, their wildest dreams, and achieve with excellence.
I see some of the topics that you have here. Build your vision, start where you are, see your weaknesses. Like they really touch to the core of the essence of who we are as human beings.
I mean, look at it. Part of the reason that very many people are scared of starting a journey is looking at where they are, and probably they look at their background and they think it doesn't qualify them. They look at, they remember the words they were told by their teacher or their parents or their neighbor. They remember a rejection along the way. They remember some painful moment. They remember upbringing that doesn't necessarily qualify them. I personally fitted all those things. There was nothing to qualify me, you know, for anything. But the thing in life is that we just have to begin where we are with what we have. And there is great power in that. So it's always important to know, appreciate where you are, recognize where you want to go, paint a clear picture, and then, you know, create the path, you know, that's likely going to give you success to getting there.
I like that. And David has been incredibly generous. He wants to give this away. Not just this book, you also came with some 2 extra books from your publishing house, Posed Lives. You want to just tell us briefly what this is about?
Now, Connie Kivuti is an amazing lady, and she's a great leader as well. And she, again, starts from her own experience. She had this major conference that she was hosting with international delegates. And that morning, coming out of the bathroom, she spins and finds herself flying mid-air and falling onto the ground so hard, and she broke her leg. And I mean, it was a very painful experience. And here she is as a host of a very major international conference. What do I do? And it ended up, the injury ended up making her hostage in her own home, imprisoning her for very, very many weeks. And when she was reflecting on how very many things in life come to us, and they put our lives on pause. We were on fast mode. Our lives were progressing on well, but something in life comes and bang, you know, it halts us.
What do you do?
What do you do? The unfortunate thing is that there are many people who stay there. And you know, they will always say the thing that happened when I was 12, the things that happened when I was, but what Connie shows is that, you know, even if something halts our lives, we can always, you know,
rise up and move on.
Always rise up and move forward. And so she helps people recognize that regardless of, you know, the circumstances or the event or what has happened, it's always possible to dream again and flourish. Have your life flourish again. It's a great book.
Amazing. And David is also generous enough to give this away today. So those are 2 books. And the third one, incredibly intriguing, The Action Bible. A minute, David, to describe this book.
Well, these books, I mean, it's designed for young readers. But I'll tell you what, it's one of my favorite books. Because even as an adult, I am fascinated, you know, first of all, by the illustrations, because they are so real. But secondly is that it picks the story of the Bible and reorganizes it chronologically as history flowed. Because you know the way the Bible is set, it's disconnected in terms of
Yes,
the.
yes.
But this one, it gives that chronological flow of
Yes.
events, but then and it gives it in a very dramatic sense. It captures, it's what you would call like Fast and Furious. If you have watched Fast and Furious, this is what it is. And for young readers and adults as well, I've found people get it, and
Yes.
they just don't.
Captivated by
They
it.
get
Yeah.
captivated.
Yeah.
Time stops. So
Okay.
yeah.
These are 3 books, the Action Bible. Then we have Champion, authored by David, and Posed Lives. If you want either one of these books, you know what you have to do. First, the hashtag is KTN Life and Style. On Facebook, we are KTN Life and Style. On Instagram and Twitter, we are KTN Life_Style. I hope I got that right. So let us know your desire for acquiring one of these books. And based on the reasons as to why you want the books, then we will make sure you get your copy. What's David planning to do now?
Well, like I mentioned, I am on a new project, which is writing fiction. In the next year or so, I am hoping to free up my time a bit because what this book does, Champion, and what I do when I am not publishing books is to spend time with people and basically help them clarify, their dreams and walk with them the journey of climbing the mountain and helping them achieve with excellence. So basically spending more time with people. Yeah.
Question, and I know we are really pressed for time, but this is really important. For aspiring authors watching, so you have your manuscript. There's David here, who is the CEO of WordAlive Publishers. How do they get to you? What do you accept manuscripts? Do you edit? What's the process?
Now, the process of being published, and this is really important for any aspiring author because people really get frustrated. One, because you've got to know the market and know which publishing houses exists and what are they interested in. And I'm saying that because if you are writing fiction and you have a publisher who doesn't handle fiction and you send the manuscript to them, you will end up being frustrated for nothing. Or if you're writing a book on human anatomy and you send it to a publisher who does purely trade books, then you will get frustrated. So you need to know who is publishing what, who is interested in, who is strong in what. That's number one. Number two is that it is important to start talking to publishers long before you finish your manuscript, at the idea stage. Why? Because when you talk to publishers at the idea stage and they like your idea, they're likely going to walk the journey with you. And you dramatically increase your chances of being published. Number three is that if you have, somebody has a finished manuscript, it is important to have an editor. And I'll tell you, I have very many people who send manuscripts, which is a first draft. And if they didn't have the time and the patience to refine their manuscript, who else will really have that? It's important that authors get an editor who will provide a very objective critique of their work. The problem with many people is they go to their friends and who will tell them this is the best thing that has ever happened since, whatever. And unfortunately, it's not very helpful advice. What I need to tell authors is writing is rewriting. When you look at, Champion, I rewrote that book no less than 6 times. I mean, this is the 7th.
Wow.
And, this is by the time it went to press. If you look at Connie's book, I worked with her on this book for a period of time, and it has gone through a lot of a transformation from what it was as a manuscript. So authors need one to know. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes time, but they need to take time themselves. 4 is that it's important for authors to know what the submission process is for each publishing house. For example, for WordAlive Publishers, if you go to the website, you'll see a submissions page, and it has guidelines on how to submit a book proposal. And once you fulfill all those, you have written and rewritten, you have had a critical review of your work, you've revised your work well, you submit a well-packaged book proposal, you've been talking to a publisher, you stand higher chances of being published than somebody who just finishes something, slaps it into an envelope, and posts it to, to publishers blindly.
Well, David, you know what? We will have to talk again some other time, but thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yet again, 3 books to give away: Champion, Pause Lives, and The Action Bible. Our social media pages are active: KTN Life and Style on Facebook, KTN Life_Style on Twitter and Instagram, or even SMS, by the way, 22840.